All right. Off to a hot start.
Oh man, this is weird.
Killing mics.
Do you live ECU? Do you bleed purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors?
Hoist the colors!
It's time for the most in-depth look into the world of ECU athletics. Welcome to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Here's Stephen Igo.
Welcome in. It is Hoist the Colors. It is officially game week. East Carolina and NC State 3 days away from kickoff inside Carter Finley Stadium. Man, it's here. We just left the Blake Harrell press conference. Got some news and notes coming out of that. We've got a depth chart. If you're listening, you can hear it. If you're watching, I can't even remember the last time we had a two deep, so we'll go over some of that. And, man, it just feels surreal that we are almost to kick off. It's been a long offseason, but a fun offseason. We're going to continue to break down the matchup. As always, the comments section are open on YouTube, Facebook, and X. If you've got anything you want to ask about the game, drop it in the chat. We'll get to it. We've got Philip Pilkington. He's producing today. Philip, 3 days out, 3 days from our pregame show live from Carter Finley Stadium. We're almost there.
Hang on, Igo. I'm on the phone, Michael.
All good. We are working through some technical difficulties as well, as Philip is trying to figure out some audio issues. We also have Joseph Samson, former ECU football player, who joins us via looks like his home office. Joe, how's it going?
It's going great. We are finally in a week where we will play ECU football. So the sun's a little brighter. Grass is a little greener, the air is a little fresher, and we've got college football this weekend besides one game that came down to the wire in Ireland, as they all seem to do, because if you love football with a total point score of 45 points, Ireland is the place to do it. Last three games they've done over there all end with a total score of 45, so I'm thrilled. And it's NC Hate Week.
NC State Hate Week, Dave Doran Hate Week for ECU and for Joe Samson. All right, so full disclosure, I can barely hear Joe talk. I can faintly make it out. Philip can hear him fine. Let us know in the comment section if you are having any trouble hearing Joe. We're trying to work through some technical difficulties, but I can't hear him enough to ask him a question and to respond. So, Joe, a lot has been made of this rivalry, obviously all offseason. And I don't know, I feel like there's game pressure on NC State heading into Thursday. We'll see what happens after the ball is kicked off. There's always pressure in college football, but it feels like there's so much pressure that is on NC State versus ECU. I feel like ECU is kind of at a point where they can kind of go in and play free, and maybe we'll see how it plays out. As people are saying, you sound great, Joe, by the way, so they can hear you. That's a positive. I don't know. Do you kind of agree? Do you feel like ECU has any pressure, or is it all on NC State and Dave Doran?
I think it's on Dave Doran, and I think this is a guy who might be on the second hottest seat in all of college football, hands down. I mean, this is a team that has had insurmountable expectations the last 5 years. Was 2 years ago talked about being a college football dark horse for the playoff, and then the expansion came around. Could they knock off the ACC? And then obviously we know SMU kind of ran the table as far as that went, and Clemson is still Clemson. But this is a team with high expectations. They brought in a guy like Grayson McCall last year. Obviously, doesn't work, so Matt McKay takes over, or CJ Bailey, sorry. And those are exactly what you expected them to be with a big freshman like that. But the expectations are still the expectations. They're still NC State. They're still the team that wants to compete for an ACC title, especially when what it looks like the path is just to beat Belichick's Tar Heels and find your way to fall into that ACC title game now with no divisions. It's just exciting. And I think especially considering all the turnover and the tumultuous offseason I put that in air quotes because Harrell did a fantastic job leading the ship and then ultimately being named head coach. ECU's got a really good shot to kind of stamp the era with a positive early on, especially with a tough slate of non-conference coming up even after NC State.
Yeah, it's one of those things. As John Moody asked me, what's my take on Joe's thoughts? We're going to manage because everybody can hear us fine, and I think we'll manage. I can hear it enough to know what Joe's saying. And look, I think it's one of those things where the start of this game feels vital because I think the longer ECU hangs around, the more it's going to – NC State with 2 new coordinators coming off a loss to ECU, they are going to want to come out and they're going to want to set the tone early at home. And if ECU can find a way to throw the first punch, they don't have to necessarily get up 7-14 nothing like they did in the bowl game. Even just hanging around, making it a 7-7 game early, I think – it's really going to put the pressure on State. And I think there's going to be some wrinkles State comes out with. And the longer ECU has to figure out DJ Elliott's defense, Kurt Roper's offense, I honestly think ECU's in better shape. So I don't know, Phil, the start of this game, how critical is that?
I think it is too because, look, they say they don't think about this stuff, and at the end of the day, it's not like players would get cut, coaches would just get fired, but they do realize if they go to class Friday morning after a loss, there's going to be snide comments. There's going to be a lot of hatred from the students, especially ones who grew up NC State fans, whereas I think East Carolina, as long as they don't go out there and just get demolished, just the fact they've beat them in the last 365 days, when they show up to class Friday morning, as long as they play well, they're going to get pats on the back. Well, playing well ain't good enough for the Wolfpack. They're going to have to win this football game, and the more and more time goes by that you feel like we might not win this game, our backs are against the wall, that pressure starts to mount, and then you start to press. And when you start to press, you make mistakes.
All right, so interesting point here. Joseph Samson, the last regular season ECU football game you ever participated in, the defensive coordinator was DJ Elliott for Temple.
Correct.
You guys in that game scored 49 points and rang up 534 yards.
Yep.
What do you remember, if anything, about game planning for that game? What to expect? I mean, that was a long time ago. We know you took a lot of shots to the head for the scout team. Do you remember much at all about DJ Elliott's defensive scheme, what Pirates could expect potentially? Yeah,
a lot of one high. He loves to play that one high box because he wants that safety down in the run game. You're going to see them try and stack the box, especially with Marlon Gunn being that workhorse back that everybody's kind of anticipating him to be. And with Maddox still kind of running the offensive line the same way in that heavy zone scheme, not true power, but they are still going to try and get West Coast and get to the side as opposed to just going downhill. It's a lot of mix-up exotics. You're going to see a lot of different pressures. You're going to see a safety come off the edge, and then the linebacker is going to replace him and fill in some of those kinds of coverages. You're going to see a lot of different looks from some stunts and some TE stunts. You might even see a loop stunt with their outside linebacker is going to walk down, and then he'll replace where the nose is. So you got to be on your P's and Q's, so to speak. You got to be on your toes and really kind of anticipate that once a guy leaves, somebody's coming to replace him. Very rarely in that defense do they drop 8, so expect for 4 at all times and definitely 5. So if I'm Kate and I'm looking hot for sure, I want to make sure I know where my man beaters are, and I want to make sure I know what the back has at all times.
ECU-NC State, it'll be a 7 o'clock kickoff on Thursday night. Brooks Hill wants to know, is the phone line open?
For Brooks, it's always
Are we going to
open
open phone lines today, Philip?
I'm good too. The question is, will I go be able to hear the phone?
That's a better
question.
If
not, I can just rely on Joe and Philip to answer it. So I'll say this. Brooks, how about this? Segment 3, Brooks, the phone line will be open. I'll give out the number unless you know it here off the top of your head, Philip.
Yeah, it's 561-8255.
252-561-8255. Brooks, 252-561-8255. Because I know he's calling from out of the state. All right, so Brooks, segment 3. This is segment 1. We'll go segment 2. So segment 3 probably starting around 12:30. We'll take your call, whatever you want to say. All right, Johnny Robertson with our DJ Elliott note there. Johnny, full disclosure, I was going to bring that on. So we're on the same page today, but appreciate you bringing out the DJ Elliott at Temple notes. John Moody says 100% chance we see a trick play from Dave Doran on Thursday, right? What do you think, Joe?
First play. You're probably going to see a double pass of some kind. You might see some kind of trickery as far as that goes. You may see a flea flicker where they kind of run the ball up and then toss it back and look for a deep shot over the top. But I guarantee you that has been drilled and drilled into that defense through all of camp. Is you need to expect something on the first play. It's when the emotions are the highest. You're on ESPN. It's going to be a kickoff. It's packed out. Regardless of how many NC State fans there will be some purple for sure, but it's going to be a full stadium. So you have to anticipate that and be ready for it. 3 things you look for in the first play of the game is a screen pass, a double pass, or some kind of reverse or wildcat situation. That's what we were always taught.
So ECU, as a result, do you just come out in the most like base defense possible in the first snap? No chance you like just bring the house on snap 1, right?
It's a good question. I think it's going to come down to Ulrich. I know that Harrell in the past has brought the house on some instances to try and kill that big play early and get them behind the sticks. We'll see what Aldrich does. Auburn was a little different in their kind of makeup last year as far as what they did early in the game. A lot of base, a lot of adjustment stuff. So I don't know if he's going to necessarily take that over now as the DC or if he's going to put his own little spin on it. But normally you come out with a base package. You may send one kind of pressure to see how they react, but have some kind of answer over the top. But I wouldn't expect them to bring the house. I think Carroll knows exactly what his defense needs to do, and they're going to play well, put him behind the sticks, and then react.
All right, it's Joe Samson, Philip Hilkinen with us. We are 3 days away from kickoff, and I don't know, Phil. The question from the state side of things for a trick play, I understand. I do expect it, but I would expect ECU to have something up their sleeve. John David Baker is pretty creative. We talked to Mike Wright this preseason. He hasn't given away any secrets, but Mike Wright did say you never know what you're going to expect with JDB from practice to practice. Like, he's always drawing up something. So I'd be surprised if we didn't see something from ECU in this game too.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. If you're East Carolina, and let's just say it goes bad, right? You find one of those trick plays where if it goes terrible, it's 2nd and 10. And darn, we threw an incomplete pass. But if it goes well, you've just taken the wind out of Carter Finley Stadium. And the other nice thing about a trick play too is if a lot of times when you go out there, you may have one thing that you're looking for that would absolutely kill it where you do have, but then it's just going to be one hand signal to just go to a base play, whereas opposed to a true audible, it's going to be very loud, we know, with East Carolina's first play. So it also sometimes allows for the minimal amount of pre-snap communication, and if you can go out there and hit that trick play, it is going to absolutely kill the momentum of the crowd. And again, if it doesn't go well, you just have one of those trick plays drawn up where it's, a bad scenario is 2nd and 10, and then you live to try and have a successful 2nd down so you can have a 3rd and short.
A lot of comments here from our fans. Continue to send them in. We'll get to them throughout the show. Always want to get to what you guys want to. Ryan Benner says it's Hate State Week. Jay says, in Annapolis, I felt like Hollywood Smothers was an explosive weapon for State and probably should have had more touches for them. We will need to contain him. Yeah. I mean, look, Smothers didn't have a touch in the 3rd quarter of that game, which was criminal, and that was something that NC State reporters asked about a lot after that game. So as a result of that, I'm expecting Hollywood Smothers to get a lot of touches. I also think, look, you're just dealing with a very talented offense here. Like ECU is very talented. You've got Smothers in the backfield. You've got Justin Jolie, a potential NFL tight end at tight end. You've got Noah Rogers and Wesley Grimes on the outside. You've got a pretty good offensive line, although they are plugging some pretty good pieces. And you got quarterback CJ Bailey. So, I just think it's a tough matchup in the opener for ECU. I do think if State gets the running game going, specifically that outside zone, which they were able to get going in that contest late, it's going to be tough sledding for ECU. So, as always, Joe, you got to stop the run first and foremost and then take your chances elsewhere, right?
Yeah, 100%. This isn't going to be one of those situations where you sell out to stop the pass. They're a very, very capable team at running the football, especially with this offensive coordinator's background. I would expect a lot of touches for Hollywood for sure. Hurts me to even call him by that nickname because you got to earn it in this league to get a nickname. Same with Sauce. He was a mod before he was Sauce Gardner, and then all of a sudden Cincinnati was the number 4 team in the nation, and he went by Sauce. So for me, I think especially considering where the bowl game ended up, how that third and fourth quarter kind of went, and where the chess match was played, you're going to see a ton more of that jet sweep stuff. They're going to try and get him touches out in space. You'll probably see a bubble of some kind for him to get vertical, but I don't think they abandon the run early. I think they try and establish it quickly so that they can free up those lanes. Bailey is not a very effective pocket passer. He does a lot of great stuff on the move when he can create his own space and do those things because his legs open up so many lanes where the rushers have to stay contained so he can step up into the pocket. I don't think he's going to sit back there all day. I'd expect some quarterback runs built off of an option set with him for sure. And then there's always some kind of question mark. You mentioned the tight end. He's a phenomenal pass catcher. So you're going to see him in some situations. They may even throw him a tight end screen early to try and get him some chunk yardage, get him in the flow. There's a lot of answers to this offense, but there's a lot of question marks that have to be solved also.
All right, he is Joe Samson. You guys can hear him loud and clear. I am trying my best to hear him as well. Philip Pilkin producing. We have a depth chart. We'll get to that on the other side. We'll also talk about some of Blake Harrell's comments coming out of this morning's press conference. We also talk with Tegan Wilk, quarterback Caton Hauser, and wide receiver Anthony Smith, who will be going back to Carter Finley Stadium for the first time, former Wolfpack player playing in Raleigh for the openers. We got all that to get to. We'll continue to answer your questions as well. Cameron's got a really interesting one. Apart from winning, what would you consider a success Thursday night? We'll get into that on the other side. This is Hoist the Colors.
The team of Flatlands Jessup is working overtime to help ensure that Eastern North Carolinians like you get the health insurance help you need this open enrollment period. New legislation passed meaning more people than ever qualify for affordable coverage. Let us help you today.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
Tired of the 1-800 numbers advertising Medicare products? Flatlands Jessup has 6 offices all throughout Eastern North Carolina. You get face-to-face help from our local award-winning licensed team. Stop by today. Flatlands Jessup, your whole world covered.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arg!
In this age of globalization, we've learned that bigger isn't always better. Ever tried to get phone help from a big corporation from a real person? Right. That's what's so nice about Phelps Chevrolet. After more than 50 years serving our community, Phelps remains family-owned and operated. Mike, Daryl, Wave, West, Allen, and Clay deliver hometown service and integrity, same as always. They share your experience, they share your values, and they are ready to help with any motoring need. Come get you one.
The Pirates play here.
Time to play the game!
This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Welcome in, Hoist the Colors, game week. 3 days out, East Carolina and North Carolina State. Thursday, 7 o'clock kickoff inside Carter Finley Stadium. We'll have the pregame show, Philip and I, live from Carter Finley. That'll air at 4 o'clock on Thursday, 4 to 6. That'll take you into the network pregame show with Jim Zoki and Andrew Bays. All right. So we got a lot of comments we'll continue to get to. Joe Samson is with us. Philip Pilkington is with us as well, producing today's program. And we've got a depth chart. I can't remember. I know we started the Mike Houston era with a depth chart, and then like a lot of things when COVID happened, like it just gave a reason to erase.
No, we had it. So the first year I worked here was 21. We had depth charts that year.
Maybe it was
I think the
state
last
game in 22 because I want to say
22.
Dorn didn't want to release the depth chart.
And
So
and then we
ECU
found out you
release
didn't
it.
have
Now,
to release
I do
them.
know.
Mhm.
And Joe, you may be, I don't know, I can't hear you still. So you may be saying this, but this year I did confirm that NC State and ECU exchanged two deeps behind the scenes. So I don't know if State released the depth chart publicly, but I think that gave ECU all right, State's got it. What difference does it make if we put it out there? But we have a depth chart, Joe. Are you, as a player, are you a fan of this, or do you wish it was kept internal?
As a player, it makes no difference because that depth chart, for those of you who are uninitiated and are unaware, on that depth chart that Igo is holding says something that says and or. And the or is basically it could be this guy, could be that guy, could be this guy, could be that guy. So there's no true indication of the starter. It really matters more when there's a quarterback controversy or a question mark like that, or if you're trying to determine if somebody's injured or out, especially because reporting is a little different than professional per se, where they have to be on the injury report during practice if they miss any portion of it. College has no rule such. But as a player, it doesn't really matter because you've done your prep. Look, when you're in that level, there are scenarios, we'll leave it as, where you kind of have a fail-safe. If this guy goes out, we've studied this backup quarterback. If this guy goes out, we know what this backup quarterback likes to do. If this guy goes to receiver, he's actually a running back here, his tendencies. The coaches live in the film room. And as much as players try and kind of get into the intricacies of the game and understand that, I mean, the chess match happens at the executive level is what Coach Houston used to always tell us. So you worry about what's on the field, we'll worry about what's off the field, was always kind of the sentiment for that. But you're not necessarily dug in on who's the number 2 wide receiver because so many players swap in so many different ways. You just kind of tune into your game plan and what the tendencies are. Defensively can be a little different because you need to know your matchups and where you're kind of vulnerable as far as coverages for these guys' strengths. But there's not really a huge advantage to having it published or not published besides the media.
Yeah, I think it's more for the fans and the media than anything. I mean, like I'm looking at this and I feel like we did our projected depth chart last week. I think we were very spot on outside of like a few things here or there just positionally. But as far as the starters across the board, I feel good about where we projected. And, I mean, the only thing I will say is being out there practice, like Joe was saying, like regardless of who's listed as the number 2 receiver, number 2 back, like those guys, they're going to rotate a lot, I think, in this offense, especially defensively. At corner, they've got Rashid Reason and Jordy Lowry listed as the starters, backed up by Tyreek Brown and Chance Grace. I would expect a lot of corners, maybe even beyond that to play. Time will tell. There are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 oars on the depth chart. Those are between the backup slot receiver, Peyton Mangrum and Jaron Waiters, London Montgomery or Marlon Gunn or Parker Jenkins, which is what I expected at running back because they see all three of those guys as starter. Backup outside linebacker, they've got Julian Davis or Kendrick DeJour behind Raheem Craig. Damian Wilson or DJ Johnson at Mike linebacker, which surprised me a little bit, although I know DJ Johnson's had a really good camp. And then 2 oars at kicker, baby, which I know everybody wants to know, and an oar at punter. Philip, any takes on the depth chart?
I was a little surprised to not see an oar at the nickel position.
Yeah.
We've kind of talked about it was because, what did you say, Joe?
I said, okay, that makes sense, yeah.
But the reason why we're surprised is because we think that they have different style bodies in that room, and depending on the situation, it will call for a different player. That's why I feel like maybe there are we thought, at least Igo and I kind of thought, there were 2 starters at that position, and it was, hey, when we need a more linebacker body, the starter's this guy. We need more of a corner body, the starter's that guy. And there's no or there, and that was kind of the weird one to me.
That's a fair take. I mean, Gene is a Rice transfer, 5th-year senior. KJ Merrill is a true sophomore. Maybe that's just an experience move. He's been the more consistent guy. I do think KJ Merrill is a little bit – he's got a higher upside, but maybe it's just an experience thing. I do expect both to play. Or is that kicker? I've said all along I expect Nick Mozzie, the New Hampshire transfer, to get the first shot. Although I will say Noah Perez has been very impressive in the practice I've seen. Conrad is also in the mix. So I don't know, Joe. Like, you can't rotate a kicker, really. So, you got to have a kicker.
Well, you're not supposed to rotate a kicker. There's been plenty of times where the kicker has been rotated. No, you're supposed to narrow in a guy. When we were starting the Mike Houston era, it was Jake Verity. Invariably, it was Jake Verity. It was Jake Verity. It was Jake Verity. And then it was Daffer. And then Daffer was the guy until obviously some things transpired where mentally he just wasn't as sharp and there. And then it was Conrad. And then Conrad was the guy. I have never loved the idea of kickers as independent contractors, so to speak, where it depends on their contributions, depends on where they are within the depth chart. I think the answer to the problem has kind of gone away in multiple different situations. Carson Smith was a phenomenal kicker. Now he's down at Austin Peay. And then you've got Leif Marjan, who is the starting kicker for Kansas. So there have been answers that haven't been what they've wanted to pencil in. So I really have heard really good things about Perez. I think Perez is probably going to be the guy if I had to just kind of throw something at the wall and see if it sticks. I don't know if the New Hampshire transfer has done those critical situations. I haven't been at practice, so we don't know about Tora. We don't know about those situations where you're 13 seconds winding down, got to get on the field. Who's the fastest setup? Who's the kicker that can make those contested kicks? Who's the short kicker? And those things. It's such a hot button issue these days with East Carolina when it comes to the special teams position. There's been a lot of turmoil, turnover, and eventual firings. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for the first game, especially considering that nobody has forgotten Dave Doran froze a kicker when it was 58-0 because he wanted to make sure they didn't hit it.
I remember that all too well. And I think that was Jake Verity who put it through the uprights, right? So
it was indeed.
Yes. So, by the way, we've got Chad Stevens in the chat. Your boy, he says, Joey football. He says, first game as an alum, point me to the tailgates. So we'll be having our pregame. So, Chad, by the way, congrats on a fantastic career, man. Really enjoyed having you on the show as well and watching you play. And by the way, you got robbed of a scoop and score in the bowl game.
I told him that. Yeah. I have that text. I said, you got a score on that. And he said, I did. They took it away. Yeah, that was a shame, but at least y'all got the dub. Anybody in the comments section, help out Chad where the tailgates are in Raleigh. Joe, are you going to the game? You live in Raleigh now, correct? I do live in Raleigh, but no, I will not be at the game. You get a corporate sellout. Got to work.
You go to work at 7:00?
No, but I got to wrap up. And then, if anybody who knows about how Raleigh operates, anytime after 4:00 on 40 to get near NC State, you're sitting in 2 hours of traffic minimum. So hypothetically, let's say I leave at 5, I may get to the parking lot by 8:00.
Fair enough.
Well, here's your solution, Joe. Get out of work early and join Chad, find a tailgate, and then just don't go to the game, just tailgate. How about that?
It's a dangerous situation.
You just sleep it off in the car. Chad will drive you home.
Another dangerous situation.
Chad will be the designated driver. I'm sure he'll agree.
Love you, Chad.
All right. We did have the question from Cameron. He says, apart from winning, which in parentheses he says, which I don't think we will, what would you consider a success Thursday night? That is a bit of a loaded question. I think Joe, as a football player, would say you got to win for it to be a true success. I'll let him speak for himself. For me, somebody who covers the team, and I'll let Phillip and Joe weigh on this as well, I just think you don't want to go up there or go over there and get embarrassed. If you go over there and you lose big and you look uncompetitive, especially defensively, where we think a lot of the question marks reside, then I think you're going to be a little discouraged. Now, does that define your season? No. Just like a big win wouldn't define your season, but it certainly gives you momentum. I think if you go there, play well in this competitive game, no matter what happens, you will have a lot to build off of with a lot of moving parts. So I just want to see ECU look competitive. I personally think they will. I think they've got a great shot to win the game, but you just don't want to go up there and lose 35-3 and look uncompetitive. Phillip, your take, and then we'll get Joe's.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the coach and the player speak would be, it's not a success if you don't win. You play the game to win the game, right? But I think when you go back and look at the film, if you do lose, if you feel like you executed on the things that you focused in on practice that week and you were successful most of the time, but they were just maybe more successful, they were just better than you're okay with that because somebody's got to be better, but you can't beat yourselves. And more games, we talk about it, are lost than are won. And that means more teams blow a game than teams actually go out there and take it. And if you go out there and you play to what you feel like is your best ability and they go out there and they take it, it kind of is what it is, right?
Joseph, your take. Can this be a success if ECU doesn't win?
When I first moved to tight end, Coach Mines used to tell us that very few teams win every game. In the history of the sport, very few teams have won every game in a season. So you have to find the positives in the losses so you know where to grow from. And especially now in this new era of the expanded playoff and the opportunity where you can lose a game, you can drop a non-conference game and still be okay because of the berths or the rankings or whatever. I think the weight's a little different. Obviously, everybody wants to beat State, the rivalry game that isn't a rivalry game. Thank you, Dave. There's certainly a connotation to that, but there are pieces that you need to do from a perspective of the marathon of the season. Did we have a good special teams operation? Did we lose the kicking battle? Did we win the turnover battle? Did we win the penalty battle? Wins like that go a long way, even if the scoreboard doesn't dictate whether or not you came home with a victory. Now, the other part to that I will say is when you lose, a lot of things hurt a lot more. When you win, a lot of things kind of sting a little less, but they still need to be cleaned up. So sometimes in a situation where that loss in the first game can really wake you up and realize where you were as far as a team and where you thought you were going. And I think the last couple of years, it's kind of been the mainstay in those opening games is, okay, maybe there are some things that we don't do as well as we thought we did. So a success for me would be to win the turnover battle, win the kicking battle, and win the field position battle. If you don't hurt yourself, shoot yourself in the foot, take a sack, give up a safety, give up an interception in any of those kind of tight situations where you're backed up at the goal line, that's a success for me to build on as a football team, especially for the offensive side of the ball where you're moving the ball consistently and getting yourself into scoring situations.
All right, there are the thoughts of Joseph Samson, former ECU football player, and Philip Pilkington. We'll get a break in. We'll come back. We have to share what we took away from the Blake Harrell press conference, also our conversations with Caden Hauser, along with Tegan Wilk and Anthony Smith. We'll get into that on the other side. We'll also maybe get a call from a fan. If you do want to call in, Brooks, you're still listening, now would be the time to get to your question as well. This is Hoist the Colors 3 days out from game day.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you farm to fork beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to fork beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
For over 51 years, Parker's Barbecue has brought families together with our award-winning whole hog barbecue and fried chicken. Tradition is important at Parker's Barbecue, and for 3 generations, the Parker's Way has stood the test of time. Whether you visit our dining rooms or drive-thrus, use our on-site catering, or even use our nationwide shipping, the hospitality, barbecue, fried chicken, homemade sides are still the same.
We are the Parker family. Come in and let our family show you. This is the Parker's Way.
Get ready to board.
We're live with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors here, segment 3. It is a Monday, August 25th show. Comments section are open, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Drop a chat there if you want us to answer any questions as we continue to roll forward. All right, we have a caller. He said he would call in. He followed through on that. It is Brooks Hill. Now, Brooks, I may or may not be able to hear you. If I can't hear you, Philip or Joe will answer you. But what you got for us, Brooks?
Okay. Well, thanks, Igo, for having me on. I appreciate it. Always good to hear you, Phil, and Joe. I am not around, in the midst of the thick of things between the Raleigh and Greenville beef right now. Obviously, living up in New York as much as I want to be, like I see on Instagram and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. But the way I'm seeing things, and am I crazy, or is this just a hot take where I don't feel that this is the biggest game of the year for ECU this year? Am I crazy for that?
I mean, I don't think you're crazy at all. I want to say earlier this offseason we ranked either the games we were looking forward to or the biggest games of the year, and none of us had NC State necessarily at number 1. Now, are they definitely top 5, top 3? Certainly, but I mean, I think biggest games, obviously, it's the next game. That's the biggest cliche, whatever. Like, I mean, BYU, critical. Army, Thursday night, conference opener. Probably more critical than all of them. At Tulane, Memphis at home. I mean, I could name 3 or 4 games that are more important. Now, maybe not to the fans, but to the team and their ultimate team goals. I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts, Joe?
You nailed it on the head, because everybody wants to circle this game and say it's the most important one on the season. Yes, it could have playoff implications where you get a big win against a team on the road, but it also can get swept under the rug so quickly as being a Thursday night game for the opener. This isn't the team they were in the beginning of the year, and all those cliches we've heard for every SEC team of the last 5 years. I think BYU is far more important. I think that's a possible Big 12 champion. I think especially where ECU is at right now from a brand perspective, that's huge to get them into Dowdy and to do well and show that you can compete with these teams that made the jump from independent to Big 12. And BYU was always considered one of those Power 6 teams also, even though they weren't in a conference. I agree. Army is extremely important from a scheduling perspective to start that run of not just conference games, but 3 Thursdays in a row to set the tone on the right type of path, so to speak, especially with how this Harrell team played in the back half of the season to get the redo versus how the Mike Houston era kind of fizzled out halfway through Army, that being the last game. I wouldn't say NC State is the most important from the program perspective. Philip, love to hear your thoughts, though.
Yeah, I think you guys have kind of hit on it here, so I don't want to just ramble on with the same points. But, at the end of the day, you want to win a national championship, sure, but you show up to win a conference championship. You show up to beat teams that you're going to see every year and teams that you're going to be compared against. And all those games are big, but even a team like Charlotte, could you argue that's a little bigger because this is a team that you feel like you are better than, that you've been unable to defeat over the past couple of years. This is a team you're constantly recruiting against. Unfortunately, we're not really recruiting against NC State. I know that it hurts to hear people say that, but now in the era of revenue sharing, Power 5 money is Power 5 money, and group of five money is group of five money. And at the end of the day, when you look at these other schools in our conference, that is your recruiting competition because you're all going to the helm with $5, $6, $7 million. NC State's going to the helm with, probably 12 to 15.
So there's our take, Brooks. I don't know. I mean, I do feel like for the fans, it's the most important because we all know, for the most part, NC State fans. But I don't know. Any thoughts after you hear that?
Yeah, obviously. So the way I looked at the schedule, and I'm looking at the printed out copy right now in my office up in New York, I thought the BYU game at home was the biggest schedule just from like the publicity standpoint and the opportunity that could bring. If BYU does stay hot at the beginning of the year, I know they had some transfer trouble with honor code violations, but who knows? They could still end up being good. That's neither here nor there.
Tulane.
Yeah, and we're still seeing we're still seeing him later on in the season. So I think that's huge. I'm always been the big proponent of winning the conference championship is more important than beating State or Carolina. And I know that's probably unpopular with a lot of Pirates, but it's just a matter of fact that all of us run into people or friends with people who went to State, went to UNC, or at least pull for UNC, and that's part of our daily lives as media members, as humans. Is we have friends that went to rival schools, so you want to overhype everything. I hate that I'm not going to be able to be there. I don't get vacation until the next day on Friday. I'll be in town for the Campbell game. First time seeing a game in Greenville since I moved to New York in 2022. So I'm really looking forward to being down there for that. I think points is points, and I think this game will come down to whoever has the ball last. That's the way I see it.
I wouldn't be shocked if that plays out, Brooks. I do think you make a good point, and it's Chad Stevens in the chat says big pride game and confidence game to start the season. I agree with that. My fans are you probably have a good selection of fans that say I'd rather beat NC State than beat Coastal or BYU. I don't know, just because it's bragging rights for the neighbor. But at the end of the day, you don't get to hang a banner for beating NC State. I guess you can hang a picture on your wall, like many Pirate alumni do, with the sunset after the Carolina game. You don't get a ring for beating NC State unless it's the Military Bowl. So this is a regular season game. I guess you do get the barrel. The victory barrel is still a thing. So apparently last
they finally found it.
So there is at least a trophy allegedly on the line, but I think conference always comes first, even though people necessarily don't want to hear that. Bragging rights, rivalry, all matter. But thanks for the call, Brooks. Anything else, man?
No, that's it for this week. Actually, I go more for you than it is for Phil and Joe. Was going through my time hop memories, and the photo of me, you, and Ronnie Woodard came up on my time hop from when me and Phil were seniors in college, and that made me think about how old I was getting. So it must feel lovely for you with your two kids now. I hope you and your wife are doing great. Our hang up and listen. Appreciate that one.
Appreciate you, Brooks. Yeah, I feel older every day. I'm sure my gray hair, I'm sure I already have a few. I'm sure more is on the way. But man.
As blonde as ever, I go.
Sure, enjoying life. So appreciate you, Brooks. We'll continue to hear from you throughout the season, I know for sure. All right, before we get a break, John Moody does say, for Chad Stevens, former ECU football player, wanting to know where the tailgate was. He says Highway 54 lot is where the Pirate tailgate takeover lot will be. So there you go. Joe, you going to be there?
There you go, Chad. We'll have to see what it works out with.
Chad's your designated driver, so, you got it covered. I tell you what, guys, let's go ahead and get that final break in. That way it gives us a longer final segment. We'll do that on the other side. This is Hoist the Colors show wrap coming up next.
Turn your car into cash at Greenville Toyota. Cash in your trade-in today. Then get new Camry, just $249 a month. Or drive a new RAV4, $319 a month. At Greenville Toyota, where our volume saves you money.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in Color and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, Newbern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
Daughtridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Daughtridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, Newbern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Cash in your trade-in at Greenville Toyota. Get a huge offer when you trade. Then save big on a brand new Corolla, just $229 a month. Or get a Tacoma, just $319 a month. Secure your Toyota now at Greenville Toyota.
Loyal and bold, we're the purple and golds.
Yo, ho, ho!
And we're back to Hoist the Colors with Steve and Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors, final segment here. My brother texted in. We were talking about you can't hang a banner for the NC State wins or North Carolina wins, but you can hang a picture on the wall. And he said, "I've got the Russell Wilson game on my wall." So,
I like it, Scott.
Which, to be fair, and he says, "Look, that State game was legit. A Super Bowl champion, Dowdy Ficklin." He's right. And that's the only time the stadium is full, and that was right after they opened the expansion, so that was a big deal.
Yeah.
But I get it both ways. Robert says win the conference. And we also have Jay who says if we lost to them last year, then State would have won 4 in a row against us in this game. It would mean more. I would rather see us win our conference and lose to State. And can we not lose to Charlotte this year? Did y'all know, gentlemen, that since I started Hoist the Colors in 2010, ECU is a combined 7-6 against North Carolina and NC State. But they are 0-5 against FBS, Charlotte, and App State. So...
Wow.
I was doing the math on that the other day. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. But, hey, it just shows that all this talk nationally about, the group of 5 can't contend with the power 5, whatever. I mean, ECU can rise up and win these games. They do it all the time. They can do it on Thursdays. So, somebody did ask earlier, the spread has moved to 14 on DraftKings. That was a surprise. I don't know what the deal is there. He said, is it a concern? I mean, I just think you're getting a lot of people who have not been engaged in sports betting all offseason. Just check the week 1 lines and throw a bunch of money down. But
yeah, that's what. Yeah, Chance and I were texting about that earlier. It's like ECU fans put money on it when it first came out, and that moved the line from 14 down to 11, and now
now they're moving it back to get the
So it's really settling back to what Vegas originally had it at. So we'll see. All right. So look, We had our press conference today, final segment here. Blake Harrell, we'll start with him. I asked him, this will be your first time as the head coach not calling the defense. And he kind of smiled and was like, look, I've been driving the defensive coaches and players crazy this week because it sounds like he's kind of – I did walk by the practice field, walking to the press conference, and he was like right in the middle, yelling at some defensive player for not doing something right. So like that was peak Blake Harrell. But how different do you think it'll be, Joe, for Blake? And how much do you think he'll still be in the headset on Saturday or on Thursday? Excuse me.
I love Blake to death, and I say this with all the love of my heart. He will 100% be in that headset on Thursday night about what he sees, about what look he's seeing, about what tendency he saw. Oh, they're lined up here. They're cheating this alignment over here. Call this, like, Josh, call this. Because that's how he is. That's just exactly what he's always been, even when he was up in the booth. The latest thing you've ever heard from the headset from a coach, because it's different as far as the rules. It's not the 10-second shutoff like it is in the NFL because there was no signals. Now there's the 10-second shutoff, but prior to, the coaches could talk all the way through the play if they needed to. So you'd see the GA just running down the field like calling a different defense because of what Blake saw up in the box. So I do not think for a second he will not be giving his input. I also have to say nature is healing. Blake Harrell was yelling at somebody for messing up an alignment, and it's not me. Nature is healing, everybody. It's okay. I think he's going to have a very hard time handing that off, but once that first snap kind of goes by and they get into a rhythm and he gets a feel for it, because this is his first time being a CEO-type head coach as opposed to a play caller as well. There's going to be some growing pains. I'm sure he had a little bit of a feel for it in the scrimmages, but it's never going to be game action. So we're all going to see a different side of Blake Harrell. He'll have to be a little more calm, a little more docile, maybe not as much of a pit bull as Coach Tesh would joke and say on the sideline, but we'll see what happens.
All right, we were talking with Tegan Wilk and Caden Hauser and Anthony Smith.
That's weird.
Kind of said something interesting. I mean, it's really not that interesting, but like you just never hear players say it a whole lot. And Philip, you asked the question about, just tackling, being physical, all that sort of stuff, and obviously that's Tegan's game. And he basically said, look, if we can do it, we want to knock the starting quarterback out of a game. It's always good to get to the backup. I think NC State is feeling the exact same way. They would love to get to Mike Wright or Raheem Jeter. So like what he said is not incorrect, but usually you just don't hear the player come out and say it. It's not like he was like, you have a bounty on CJ Bailey or anything, but I just thought it was interesting, and Tegan is always very upfront with his thoughts, so it was good to talk with him, but I thought that was interesting.
It was. It was. We were talking about during the break, the way he worded it, he sounded like a baseball player talking about knocking out the starter. Like, he was just like, yeah, man, we want to get to their second guy. He wasn't like, yeah, man, we want to hurt him. He didn't do anything like that. But my question was, I did bring up the running quarterback, but what I mentioned is due to the running quarterback, there might be more opportunities to make tackles in the flats. And anybody who knows Tegan personally or maybe has even seen his style, open field tackling is his favorite part of the game. Yes, he likes to intercept the ball and all that too, but at the end of the day, it's the open field tackling. It's hitting dudes as hard as he can. I'm like, oh, you're going to have more opportunities at CJ, than maybe you would a true pocket passer. And he's like, yeah, man, we want to knock him out of the game. I mean, not really knock him out, but yeah, it would be nice to get to their number 2. And it's like, okay, good job, Tegan. I mean, I respect it, but dang.
And, I mean, let's be real. I will say freshman CJ Bailey was pretty thin. The reports are he has added 20 pounds to that 6'6" frame. So it'll be interesting. I think he is going to be much more mature physically, mentally this year. But if you're ECU, he's still a young quarterback. And what you want to do with a young quarterback, Joe, is knock him around a little bit. That's football 101. Get his feet rattled a little bit. Get his head rattled. Get his feet moving.
Coach Weaver's first rule number 1 was get to number 2, and that's exactly what they're going to try and do. You want to rattle him, you want to send pressure, you want to hit him a couple times, not in a dirty way, but he's trying to get you off him. Maybe you give him a shove back a little bit. You want to rattle the kid. You want to see what he's got as far as between the ears. Is he going to respond to that? Is he going to be one of those ref, he's on top of me, and that kind of thing? So you want to play a little bit of mind games there. To the people who are worried about Tegan Wilk hitting this 6'6" kid out in the flat, he used to lay me out in practice, even when it was shells, and then get ripped by Coach Houston, fist bump Coach Houston, and run off and then fist bump me. And I'm talking like helmet cleared. I never fumbled, though. Tegan can back this up. Never fumbled. But he would take me off my cleats. So I don't worry for a second about him making a tackle in the flats on this kid, no matter how much muscle he's added.
I did confirm last week that this game will be officiated by American Conference officials. Is that a good or a bad thing?
How much time we got?
we got 3 minutes. 3 minutes left.
It is what it is, but we all know the Americans always out to get ECU. Tulsa screw job. Numerous calls that haven't been called. Some PIs that should have been called, but I think it's it makes sense for it to be American, I think, especially with how the ACC refs kind of got some heat last year after a couple crucial calls and some primetime games. I agree with them going American. I'm a little shocked they didn't necessarily go with the kickoff game, it being like a Big Ten situation or an SEC refs, but I'm sure they're on assignment.
We'll see. It's like the American. I think you'll get a fair whistle. It's not like you're going to get an ACC crew that's going to give you some bad calls, but let's be real. The American is not known for its great officiating.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to cheat you. They just might not know the rule.
Exactly.
That's going to be the issue.
They'll just mess it up more so than cheat. That's how they typically do it. All right, Joe Samson, we got a couple minutes left since we won't hear from you the rest of this week on this show. Keys to victory. How do the Pirates beat the Wolfpack a second consecutive time?
Win the turnover battle's the first thing. You have to get this kid flustered. He's got to be angry. He's got to be trying to press and make hero plays, and that's where you're going to find your kind of niche of where you're going to get the football back and then start to build up on that, because it's a very talented football team. As much as we joke about it that NC State isn't going to be what they were, they're still a very talented football team. They're in the ACC. They've got great backing in the NIL era. So that's the first key. Second is let Caton Hauser be Caton Hauser. Last year there were some instances, and you saw it a little bit in the early parts of the game. JDB was kind of holding the leash and not letting the guard dog out. It's time to let the big dog eat, and it's time for bombs away. It's time for Caton Hauser to throw the football the way Caton Hauser throws the football. I want Anthony Smith doing the between the leg. I want Yannick Smith doing the between the leg. I want flags everywhere. I want celebrations while we go up 45 points, because we're going to have Noah Perez kick a 58-yard field goal from all the special celebrations we've got going on the sideline. The key to victory is just to play Pirate football.
All right, the official prediction in our final seconds here. You got a score for us?
I'm going to go 35-31 ECU.
All right.
Wow, we asked him for a key to the game. He didn't say, run the dang ball. I was a little surprised.
No, not yet.
Pirates
not
last
yet. This
year when
one's
they
bombs
ran
away.
for 200 or more yards in their final 5 wins. Those were obviously the wins. The one game they didn't was a loss against Navy. All right, Joseph, appreciate you. Thank you for the time, man. Even though I could barely hear you, I enjoyed it.
Hey, go Pirates.
I heard that. He said go Pirates. All right, Philip Pilkin, appreciate you as always. We will be back Tuesday. We'll be 2 days away from kickoff. And we may have James Giglio join us, Voice of Colors intern, but we'll be talking ECU-NC State a lot over the next couple of days, leading into Thursday. Man, it's almost here, and it's such an exciting time. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in.